Hi, comrades. Happy Centennial. Okay, so I'll try not to go on for too long. It's just 4 pages. First of all, it's a real extreme pleasure to be here in this room with everyone on this really important Centennial Day. It really kind of gives me a feeling of a lot of hope and love to be in a room with so many people who know how important this day is and what it means to people all over the world. So it's been a wild year for everyone. We started off by being in the streets and seeing thousands in the streets of D.C. for January 20th when Trump was sworn in as President of the United States. What has followed is a year of historic fight back. Starting with J20, when protesters militantly raised the banner of anti-racism, anti-imperialism, and anti-capitalism, we have seen people take the streets again and again to push back whatever avalanche of terror against our class this regime sends our way. The JFK and hands-off Syria mobilizations are good examples. Charlottesville is a good example. Durham is a great example. But while our presence in the streets has been militant, immediate, and vanguard-like in its formation, it has not stopped the response of the state, which has likewise been forceful. More than 200 protesters were kettled and arrested on J20. They are facing up to 80 years in jail on felony riot charges. Our comrades and friends were beaten and arrested for insisting that the U.S. must keep its filthy hands off Syria. We watched bricks thrown, hammers literally falling on us, gas, and a murder happen in Charlottesville. I remember sitting on the B38 bus in Brooklyn crying as I watched my comrades being arrested in Durham. I remember hearing them chant as they were led away in handcuffs. My heart was heavy with pride and love. Now in the news I see that the ruling class wants to accuse me and my people of being puppets of some foreign government. But Puerto Rico still doesn't have power. ICE arrests children from hospitals, and killer cop Daniel Pantaleo watches the game and draws his 6-figure salary. Our class struggles against gentrification, poverty, addiction, incarceration, the racist police, and things seem to get harder and harder. I think of what a candidate comrade said in this room, that the homeless shelter they work for has more than 60 people sleeping upright in chairs every night because they don't have enough beds. It can all seem overwhelming and demoralizing. So in the depth of this sort of despair, so deep in the belly of the beast that we are, what gives us hope? It's sort of a corny word, actually, hope. It feels like it's a weak position to have. We know that we will win. That's revolutionary optimism, right? Revolutionary optimism is looking around at the world and saying, and knowing for sure that this can't continue indefinitely, that this just can't continue on forever. As dialectical materialists, we know that everything in this world is presently in a process of change. But when we stand in the streets and chant, I believe that we will win, we're chanting about hope. It's that feeling in your chest. It's that dizzy kind of love for our class. So since it's my honor to speak to y'all on the day of our centennial, of our 100-year celebration of socialist revolution, I think we should ask what makes someone caught up in all this horror feel a sense of deep pride and love in the revolution that took place in Russia 100 years ago. It was not the first revolution where the oppressed people threw off their chains, and it certainly was not the last. But what about this and all other revolutions can give the people struggling for our lives in the belly of the beast hope? We are exhausted. The challenges we face seem gargantuan in scope, but our class has faced all this and more and achieved real victories. They have shown us the way. Their battles won and incredible odds surmounted give us hope. When we talk about the Russian Revolution or the Haitian Revolution, the incredible Vietnamese victory over U.S. imperialism, Mao winning after decades of struggle, Fidel arriving in Havana victorious, the Soviet flag hoisted over the Reichstag during the liberation of Berlin, we are actually talking about family history. We all sit in this room as products of this revolutionary heritage. We are guided by heroes. In Russia, the Bolsheviks were illegal. Lenin was in hiding. The peasantry and working class were hardly literate and lived in the most squalid of conditions. They were stuck in the middle of what was then the most bloody war in all of European history, with youth after youth being sent to the front to die, the most undignified and useless, meaningless deaths. Our leaders were scattered throughout the world, on the run. There were no laws in place to protect people's rights to assemble, the right to free speech, or what have you. Unions were illegal. How then did our forces win the sweetest of victories in 1917? It was because they were organized. They were a tightly disciplined and yet totally adaptive organization, a Leninist party, led by the best and brightest of the working class and oppressed. They smashed through whatever the ruling class put in their path because the Soviet Union was a revolution whose time had come. The people had no choice but to get organized. Putting faith in the working class and oppressed took an enormous amount of heart, but they did it. Moreover, they understood the dire necessity for the vanguard to win the trust of the working class and oppressed. By raising the banner of peace, land, and bread, through tireless militant effort and organizing, the Bolsheviks helped deliver a power to the world that would defeat Nazi Germany and, by its very nature, enforce a balance of power that resulted in peaceful development and progressive gains throughout the world. It's only through organization and through the party forum that we can accomplish our history's most necessary task, smashing white supremacy, abolishing capitalism, and the immediate implementation of socialism. I'm not overstating our situation to say that humanity stands on the brink of destruction. It's our job, those of us who are revolutionaries, those of us who are in this room and in this city, to band together to slay this beast. No one else will do this. It really is up to us. Last year, I watched the election from overseas. I remember waking up the next morning and having an honest heart-to-heart with my friend at the time. We honestly did not know when we would see each other again. I remember going to the airport with a sense of extreme dread in the pit of my stomach, seeing all the tabloids laid out in front of the gate with the most horrific headlines about Trump's election. The prospect of sitting on a plane with people who may have voted for him terrified me. I don't know how I got that flight, but I do know that I walked off that plane and right into the annual party conference. That despair was quickly and swiftly replaced by the love, strength, and camaraderie of this party. From many disparate individuals racked with anxiety about the future, we all together formed a revolutionary fist that delivered us victory after victory this year. I remember what Comrade Larry Holmes said at an open house we had a few weeks ago, that a party like ours is able to accomplish so much with our small numbers because exactly that we are organized. We strategize with one another. We consult. We tirelessly have each other's backs. Here is a cause for hope. 100 years after the Russian Revolution, its very specter still haunts the ruling class. The bourgeois media had to run smear after smear against it. The New York Times even had a regular series dedicated to it this year. They've been telling me that socialism is dead since the collapse of the Soviet Union, but we see that the very idea of socialism still invigorates our class and terrifies our enemies to their very bones. The task at hand for those who don't know yet is to get organized. The incredible growth of this party in this phase is a vindication and affirmation of our line on the national question and special oppression, our analysis of capitalism at a dead end, and our culture of consultation. Every new candidate, every new friend, every new subscriber or reader of our newspaper is a vote of confidence from our class. I look at the incredible caliber of my comrades who have been in this struggle for decades, or even just for a few months, and I feel confidence. We are educated, dedicated, loving, contemplative, and militant cadre. I look at the hundreds of thousands who have taken to the streets against white supremacy, and I feel love and hope. On the anniversary of the centennial of the Russian Revolution, looking at our conditions and theirs, I believe that we are again coming up on a turning point in history. When we are organized and when we struggle, we win. This year's Workers' World Conference will be one of the most important in our party's history. We will be gathering to report back on our struggles and victories so far, share skills and perspectives with our comrades and friends, and strategize our way forward. Youth from across the United States will be there, ready to pick each other back up, dust each other back off, pat each other on the back, and consult with and encourage each other to keep fighting. It will take place in what certainly seems to be, at least to someone my age, rather dire times, and in the occupied city of Newark. But if it's one thing that this year has shown me, it's that my faith in our class and in this party has been vindicated time after time again. I believe that we are faithfully carrying the spirit of the Russian Revolution into this next phase of history, and that gives us confidence and hope. And I really do believe that we will win. So I'll see y'all at the conference.